The rain fell in heavy sheets, drumming against the walls of the crumbling temple. Alex's boots crunched through the ancient stone as he moved deeper into the structure, his flashlight casting long, jagged shadows across the forgotten ruins. The air smelled of damp earth and something older, something buried beneath the weight of time. He had found it. The map had promised him an artifact, something lost to history. He didn't know what it was, but as he stepped over the threshold into a hidden chamber, he knew he was on the verge of something extraordinary. Here it is, Alex whispered to himself, barely believing the sight before him. Resting atop a stone pedestal was a small, intricately carved box. His hands trembled as he reached forward, careful not to disturb the centuries-old dust. But before his fingers even brushed the surface, a faint glow flickered from within. Startled, Alex took a step back. Was it some sort of advanced technology? He hadn't expected this. There was no way a relic this old could still have power. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, then gently pressed the lid open. A low hum filled the room, and a soft voice, ancient and strange, echoed through his head. The language was like nothing he had ever heard before. His heart raced, the world outside the temple fading into the background as the words, unintelligible and foreign, wrapped themselves around his thoughts. But then, to his astonishment, he spoke. His voice echoed back, distorted but clear. This can't be real. How? How am I speaking this? Before Alex could process what had happened, the box trembled in his hands. A swirling mass of light poured from it, illuminating the chamber. His eyes widened in disbelief, a feeling of dread sinking deep into his stomach. He wasn't alone anymore. You shouldn't have done that, a voice called from the shadows. Alex spun around. A woman, tall with sharp features and silver eyes, stood at the entrance of the chamber. Her skin shimmered like the surface of a calm lake, pale yet alive with an inner glow. The faintest hint of a smile curled her lips, but there was no warmth in her expression. Who are you? Alex demanded, instinctively stepping back, clutching the glowing box tightly. I am Zara, the woman replied, her voice both smooth and cold. And you've just awakened something ancient, something that was never meant to be touched by human hands. Her words struck him like a cold wind. He had heard the warnings, the stories about lost alien civilizations, their forbidden relics. He'd always brushed them off. Now, standing face to face with one of these beings, Alex was forced to confront the impossible reality. The glowing box, the ancient language, it wasn't just a relic. It was a key, and it had chosen him. Zara stepped forward, her presence commanding. The language you've unlocked, it's not just words. It's a power. A power that no one, especially not a human, should control. I don't understand, Alex said, his voice trembling as the weight of her words hit him. What's happening? Zara's gaze darkened. You've triggered something that has been dormant for eons. That language, it's a code. A key to a weapon, a being of unimaginable power. And now, the ones who seek it will come for you. Alex's pulse quickened. Who are they? Her eyes narrowed, her silver irises flashing. The Quran. A faction that has been searching for this key for generations. And they will stop at nothing to claim it. A chill ran down Alex's spine. He had read about the Quran, an alien race known for their ruthless tactics. The stories described them as merciless, willing to destroy entire worlds to achieve their goals. He had no idea why they would come after him, but Zara's warning was clear. He was in far deeper than he had ever imagined. We need to leave, Zara said, urgency creeping into her voice. Now. Alex's mind raced. He had no experience in battles or confrontations of this magnitude. But his instincts screamed at him. He had to protect the artifact, protect himself. If Zara was telling the truth, the fate of more than just his own life hung in the balance. Without another word, he turned and ran toward the exit, Zara at his heels. The temple's ancient walls seemed to close in on them as they hurried deeper into the darkness, the hum of the box now a constant presence in the back of Alex's mind. But even as they fled, the storm outside had already begun to stir. Something far greater than just weather was brewing. And Alex knew, deep in his gut, that his life would never be the same again. The rain had stopped, but the storm lingered in the air, its oppressive humidity thick as Alex and Zara made their way through the dense underbrush. The dense forest surrounding the ancient temple was alive with the sound of distant creatures and the crackle of hidden energy. Alex could feel it, the weight of the artifact in his backpack seemed to pull at him, as though it were alive, stirring with an energy he couldn't understand. "You're sure we're safe for now?" Alex asked, glancing over his shoulder. His breath was ragged, his mind still reeling from the events of the past few hours. "I mean, they're not following us." Zara's gaze remained steady, her silver eyes scanning the shadows with a predator's instinct. "For now. But they'll be close. The Quran don't give up easily." Her voice, always calm, now held an edge of something deeper, a quiet resolve mixed with something darker. "We don't have much time." Alex tried to keep his pace, but the exhaustion in his legs was already setting in. He wasn't used to running from anything, let alone a race of ruthless aliens who wanted to wipe out humanity. "What exactly is this weapon? You said it's some kind of being. Why would they want it? And why would it speak to me?" Zara turned to face him, her expression unreadable. The long, dark strands of her hair swayed with the breeze as she spoke. "The language you heard, it's not just a code. It's a key to a forgotten weapon. A being that could reshape the galaxy, but it can't be controlled. Not by anyone. Not even the elders who created it." "The elders?" Alex stopped walking, his curiosity overtaking him. "Who are they? What do you mean by they created it?" Her gaze softened for a moment, almost imperceptibly. "The elders were the first beings to master the secrets of the cosmos. They were far beyond any species in our time, even mine. They left behind their knowledge and their creations, scattered across the stars. But there were things they kept hidden. This weapon," she hesitated, a flicker of something dark crossing her face. "It was too dangerous, even for them. They locked it away and erased the language. They made sure no one would find it. And now I've found it." Alex's words were heavy with realization. "Not just you," Zara said quietly. "The Quran are searching for it. They will do anything to control the weapon. They believe it can give them ultimate power. They are not merciful." The weight of her words hung between them as the distant hum of the artifact seemed to grow louder, pressing against Alex's thoughts. "And you? Why are you helping me?" Zara's lips tightened. "I'm not helping you. I'm helping us. The weapon is part of my people's legacy, and I have spent my life looking for it. But I was never meant to find it like this." Her silver eyes met his. "The artifact has chosen you. I don't know why, but you must know, once it's activated, there's no turning back." A chill ran down Alex's spine. He had heard the tales of powerful ancient technology before, but he never thought he'd be caught in the middle of it. "So what now? What do we do?" Zara's voice was firm. "We need to understand what the artifact is before the Quran get their hands on it. There's a place, an archive in the capital of my homeworld, that holds the rest of the language. We can decipher it there. But the Quran will be looking for us by now. We need to move fast." "Right," Alex said, a new determination in his voice. "I'm in." Zara gave a nod, and they moved out once again, this time with more urgency. The ground beneath their feet felt treacherous, as though the earth itself was resisting their movement. They kept to the shadows, hoping to stay hidden from any eyes that might be watching. The night grew darker, and the air colder. As they reached the edge of the forest, Zara stopped, motioning for silence. "They're close," she whispered. Her voice was almost inaudible, but Alex could see the tension in her posture. Her body was taut, ready for action. Alex strained his ears, but heard nothing. The forest was eerily still. "Are you sure?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. She nodded. "They've learned to hide their presence, but I can feel them. They're close, and they won't stop until they have what's ours." She glanced at him, her eyes darkening. "The artifact, if it comes to it, you need to protect it. Don't let them take it. He nodded, his mind racing. He didn't know what kind of threat he was up against, but with Zara at his side, he felt a flicker of hope. If anyone could make it through this, it was her. But Alex wasn't about to just stand by and let it all slip away. A sudden, sharp sound cut through the night, footsteps, faint but unmistakable. "They're here," Zara said, her voice low and commanding. The tension in the air snapped as Alex braced himself, his hand tightening on the glowing box in his pack. The Quran were coming, and they wouldn't stop until they had everything. The moon hung high, casting a dim silver light across the desolate landscape. Alex and Zara crouched behind a cluster of jagged rocks, the weight of their situation pressing in on them. Their breath was shallow, hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. The Quran were out there. They had to be. The faint, rhythmic hum of the artifact in Alex's pack had become a constant, unnerving presence, like a pulse of power that never stopped. Zara's voice was barely a whisper. "We don't have much time. Once they lock onto our signal, they'll find us. No place will be safe." Alex tightened his grip on the strap of his backpack, feeling the weight of the artifact pressing against his back. He wasn't sure what it was or what it could do, but he could sense that it was more than just an object. He could feel its ancient energy. It was alive in a way, tugging at him, beckoning him forward, urging him to understand. "How do we stop them?" Alex asked, his voice steady despite the tension rising in his chest. Zara's gaze flicked over the barren terrain, her silver eyes scanning the distance. "We don't stop them, not yet. First, we need to reach the archive. Only there can we learn what the artifact really is, what it's capable of. We can't afford to make any mistakes." "But what if we can't make it there in time? What if they will come for us?" Zara interrupted. Her voice, though quiet, was sharp. "But we have the advantage. The Quran don't know exactly what we found. They only know what we're carrying. If we keep moving, they won't catch us off guard." Alex nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. He'd never signed up for anything like this. When he'd first stepped into that temple, he had been chasing legends. Now, he was tangled in a war he barely understood, carrying the potential destruction of entire worlds on his back. He glanced at Zara, the alien woman who had become his unlikely ally. There was something about her calm demeanor, her absolute confidence, that put him at ease, even as the danger closed in. Zara turned toward him, sensing his hesitation. "Don't doubt yourself," she said softly. "You're more than just a human. You were chosen for a reason. The artifact is not here by accident." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Alex wasn't sure he believed her, but the way she spoke made him wonder. Perhaps it was true. Maybe the artifact had chosen him, just like Zara said. But why? Why him? Before he could voice the question, the ground beneath them trembled, and the distant rumble of engines reached his ears. His heart skipped a beat. "They found us," Zara whispered, her voice tense now, no longer the calm strategist. "Move. Now." They sprang to their feet and dashed toward the cover of a narrow ravine, the distant noise of the Quran fleet growing louder with each passing second. Alex's legs burned as they ran, his mind racing with thoughts of what might happen next. He had no plan, no strategy, only the desire to survive. As they reached the ravine, Zara pulled him aside, her hand firm on his arm. "Stay here," she ordered. "I need to scout ahead. If we're caught in the open, we'll be sitting ducks." "But what if?" "Trust me," she cut him off, her silver eyes locking onto his. "I won't let them take you. Just stay out of sight." She disappeared into the darkness, blending into the shadows like a ghost. Alex stood still, trying to steady his breath, the weight of the artifact growing heavier with each passing second. The minutes dragged on like hours, the silence around him almost suffocating. He kept telling himself to stay calm, but his mind kept racing. What if Zara didn't make it back? What if they were already too late? Suddenly, a sharp, mechanical noise sliced through the air, an alarm, followed by the unmistakable sound of boots on the ground. Alex's stomach dropped. They were close. Too close. He glanced around frantically, trying to find a place to hide. The ravine was too shallow. The rocks were too sparse. There was no time to think. The Quran were coming. Without thinking, Alex yanked the artifact from his pack. The moment his fingers touched it, the hum grew louder, vibrating through his body. He could feel the pulse of power again, stronger now, almost as though it were awakening. The strange alien language filled his mind again, the words indistinct but urgent. The ground beneath him seemed to ripple, as if reacting to the artifact's presence. Alex's heart raced. He didn't know what was happening, but something was changing. The Quran weren't just after the artifact, they were after him. And he could sense it now. The artifact had drawn them here. The realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. He was the key. But to what? To the weapon, to the Quran's plans, or to something even darker? Before he could process the thought, the sound of Zara's voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the tension. "Move, Alex. Now." Alex didn't hesitate. He grabbed the artifact, tucked it close to his chest, and sprinted after her. The race for survival was just beginning, and every step felt like a countdown. The wind howled through the narrow streets of the ruined city, carrying with it the scent of burning metal and dust. Alex and Zara darted between the crumbling walls, their footsteps echoing in the silence that surrounded them. The once thriving metropolis had been reduced to nothing more than a skeleton of its former self, its towers cracked and twisted like the bones of a dead giant. It was the perfect place to hide, or so Alex hoped. Zara led the way, her movements graceful and deliberate, as if she had memorized every stone, every corner of this forsaken city. Alex struggled to keep up, his breath ragged from the sprint, his mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The Quran were closing in. Their relentless pursuit had driven them this far, but they couldn't run forever. And now, with the artifact pulsing in Alex's pack, he felt the pressure of his responsibility weighing heavier than ever. Zara stopped abruptly, her hand raised in a silent signal for him to do the same. She scanned the surroundings, her sharp eyes flicking over the shadows. "We're almost there," she said, her voice low but steady. "The archive should be just ahead." Alex nodded, though his nerves were on edge. He wanted to believe her, but the urgency in her voice made him doubt the safety of their refuge. They were running out of time. The Quran wouldn't stop until they had what Alex carried. But what was it? What was the artifact capable of? And why had it chosen him? Zara turned to face him, sensing his unease. "You're worried. I can tell." Alex swallowed, trying to steady his thoughts. "You're not exactly making this easy. We've been running from these aliens for days. I'm carrying an artifact that might destroy the galaxy, and you keep telling me it's the key to something we need to understand. What happens if we don't get there in time?" Zara's gaze softened, though there was no fear in her eyes, only determination. "You're the one who awakened it. That means you're the one who has to decide. The Quran are relentless, but you're not helpless. You can control it. You can change the outcome. The choice is yours, Alex." His heart raced as the weight of her words settled into his chest. Control? Could he really control it? The artifact pulsed again, almost as if it were alive, urging him forward, urging him to make a decision. It was as if the very air around him was alive with energy, charged with something he couldn't yet comprehend. A low rumble reached their ears, distant but unmistakable. The Quran were getting closer. "We don't have much time," Zara said, urgency creeping into her tone. She turned back toward the alley, gesturing for Alex to follow. "The archive is this way. We'll find the answers there. But you need to be ready. Whatever happens next, it's up to you." Alex nodded, though doubt still churned in his stomach. He had no idea what was waiting for them in the archive, only that the artifact seemed to be calling to him. And yet, with every step, he felt a growing sense of unease. Was he prepared for what was about to unfold? They rounded the corner and entered a hidden passage beneath the crumbling city. The air grew colder, the darkness more oppressive. Zara's eyes adjusted quickly, the faint light from her wristband illuminating the narrow path ahead. Alex followed closely, his heart thumping in his chest. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The Quran weren't far behind. After what felt like hours, they reached the entrance to the archive. The door was ancient, its metal surface covered in intricate alien symbols. Zara stepped forward and placed her palm against it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, the door slid open, revealing a vast chamber filled with strange artifacts and glowing data pads. "This is it," Zara said, her voice almost reverent. "This is where it all began." Alex stepped inside, the hum of the artifact growing louder in his chest. He could feel it now, the power swirling around him. The room seemed to pulse with the same energy, as if the very walls were alive, responding to the artifact's presence. Zara moved to one of the consoles and began to input commands. "The data here will tell us everything. The language, the weapon, the Quran, everything." Alex stood frozen for a moment, his eyes scanning the room. The weight of the decision before him pressed down on him like a vice. He wasn't just carrying the artifact anymore, he was carrying the fate of everything, his world, Zara's people, and the galaxy itself. "What if we can't control it?" Alex asked, his voice thick with uncertainty. "What if I make the wrong choice?" Zara looked up, her silver eyes locking onto his. "Then we face the consequences. But I believe in you. You're not just some human. You're the one who unlocked the artifact. And now, it's up to you to decide how to use it." The hum grew louder, almost deafening. The Quran were close now. And Alex knew that the choice before him would shape everything. He could feel the artifact's power surging, urging him to act. But what was he supposed to do? The door behind them creaked, the sound of heavy boots echoing through the hall. Zara's voice was low, almost a whisper. "It's time. Make your choice."